Forged in the fires of atomic devastation, we seek to reclaim the relics of our once great civilization. With our hearts as strong as the armor we wear, no one dare stand against us, for we are the Brotherhood of Steel. Ad Victoriam, brothers. I am Paladin Paris, and joining me today is the noble knight Lawerence, along with a scribe from another clan in our order, one with information that may shape the very foundation of our mission. From Vault Boys WV, a man simply known as Dave.
Do I have to do the voice?
You can.
Is that a requirement?
It is pretty fun.
It's required.
Well, maybe my West Virginia accent will come out a little bit in the recording of this, so you'll hear some colloquialisms as I go about.
That'd be great. Thank you for joining us, Dave.
Oh, no problem, guys. I really enjoy the podcast. I like all the work that you guys are doing, and so we've done a little bit of collaboration on my podcast, and so it's nice to come on yours and talk a little bit about this fantastic game.
Absolutely. So our topic for today is the Brotherhood of Steel, and a little bit about their background, their evolution, the organization that they are today, and whether or not, this is the best version of the Brotherhood that we see in Fallout 4. But real quick, Dave, could you please tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. So I've got a write-up here a little to get you in the mood here.
Ooh.
So behind every game, as you all know, is a story. You're listening to Lore Party, so you already know that. But what's the story behind the story? What influences the tales spun by writers and designers? Well, what if we took your favorite series, Fallout, and told a story about its inspirations? Better yet, what if we took on telling the stories behind the yet-to-be-released Fallout 76? But how can we go that in-depth with a game that's not released? So, my name is David Chaffins, and I'm a bona fide Appalachian geographer. It's a silly name, I know. I've asked my friend Austin, who's a local photographer and journalists, to join me in discussing a multitude of tales from West Virginia and how they relate to Fallout 76. We cover everything from Thomas Jefferson's obsession with West Virginia sloths to the connecting ghost stories that surround both the Beast of Grafton and the elusive Sickleman. The show is called Vault Boys WV, and we're on Apple and Android with new episodes every Wednesday. So if you like kind of more Fallout, you'll want some more Fallout lore, give us a subscribe, give us a little listen. We've got weekly content, Fallout 76, every week.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
There you go. Did my mama proud.
Oh, that's great. So let's get into a little bit. So for those of you that don't know, the Brotherhood of Steel is a faction that you encounter in the Fallout franchise. Originally formed by Roger Maxson. He was a captain in the United States Army right before the explosions that end the world, the nuclear devastation. He was in charge of guarding a facility in California called the Mariposa Military Base, and he found out while guarding the base that he was actually guarding scientists who were creating a forced evolutionary virus, or FEV. Those of you who've played the game before, that might sound familiar to you because the FEV is what turns everyone into super mutants.
Nice.
It's actually what leads to the Master in Fallout 1. When Maxson finds out about this, he actually, him and his men, they desert the army, take over the base, kill everyone, and basically declare themselves independent from the United States government.
But somehow they failed to get rid of the forced evolutionary virus.
Yes, well, that's actually interesting because they thought they wiped out the only supply of it, but turns out that there's actually several caches of FEV being experimented on all across the United States because, when I'm working on a dangerous, deadly virus, I like to spread it out into as many places as possible.
You have to be redundant with a lot of that stuff.
Right?
If you're doing that research, that dastardly mad scientist research, redundancy is key.
And technically it worked.
That's true. I mean, I'm not surprised given the Fallout's nature of making horrible experiments as far-reaching as possible. But yeah, so they basically the United States government ignores them when they declared desertion from the army, and then before anybody could actually do anything, the nuclear apocalypse happens. So Maxim and his men were like, okay, I guess we're on our own now. And they all decided that they wanted to set out and collect all the technology they could find in order to help rebuild civilization. That was their original mission, was to, collect technology and help rebuild America, essentially. And I mean, that's their basic philosophy, is that they wanted to collect all technology they get their hands on, keep it out of the hands of people who would use it for evil, like the ones who ended the world before, and essentially become the shepherds of the new world in a sense of, collecting their own technology and keeping it out of the hands of anybody else.
So essentially, they're like the parents that have said, you know what? You've messed with these Barbies long enough. We're going to take away the Barbies because you know what? You all have torn all the hair and limbs and markered their faces together.
If by Barbies you mean ICBMs, then yes, absolutely.
Same difference,
For some children, yes. A lot of people have said in each version of Fallout, you seem to see a different version of the Brotherhood of Steel. For instance, in the first Brotherhood, they're a very staunch, idealistic group, and then in games like Fallout Tactics, they kind of lessen their restrictions a little bit. In the first iteration of the Brotherhood, they only if you were born into the Brotherhood could you be a Brotherhood of Steel. They did not allow outsiders. But then that kind of lessened a little bit.
So how many people were in the original Brotherhood of Steel if they were that restricted?
That is a good question, because the original Brotherhood of Steel was only, the captain, his soldiers, and then their families.
Right, and how many soldiers would you have? I'm not that familiar with what's current for what you would hold domestically at military bases and such. Would it be like 50 or 100? And are they like 50 families at this base? What's going down with all that? That's my question.
Yeah.
So from what I can look up, a command from a captain would be about 3 to 4 platoons of soldiers.
So a good amount of people then.
Yeah, and then that include any families or survivors that they picked up along the way.
And so why were they so reluctant to take on outsiders when they seem to have this whole, I don't know, they seem to want to shepherd humanity. So why, reject humanity at the same time?
I think their original goal is, is more of we can't trust anybody outside of this room because they're the people that blew up the world in the first place kind of mentality.
Right. I think that it's interesting because they have very unique core values that I think are almost similar to what we know as college fraternities.
Nice.
That they are, number one, they're, as far as what I've seen and experienced, their number one value is the first word in their official name, which is brotherhood. And so that's something that they've established, that it is a truly a brotherhood in the larger sense, that they're all connected by this shared experience. And with that comes rules and tradition.
I mean, it does make sense, especially if, the apocalypse just happened. You only want professionals with you in that scenario.
Because who would you trust?
Exactly.
And the other two that I have here are their number 3 value. The thing that they value. A third is technology. And then under technology, and this is kind of if all 3 have been achieved, then being generally helpful is a value, but not something they particularly value.
I'm sure, if they were walking along the road and they see 2 people, and one of them's like, I'm a technician. The other one goes, I'm a farmer. They're like, get out of here, farmer. You a technician, come here.
Farmer gets shot.
Farmer gets shot.
So, while the values are the same, it's kind of it's kind of like a fraternity. They're all values-based organizations, but man, they screw up a lot.
They really do.
They do. Just like a fraternity.
Yes.
And I feel like they also, I don't know, kind of group of friends fashion splinter off quite frequently as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that I feel like every time this group splinters, they get further and further from the main goal, or the main ideologies of the Brotherhood of Steel.
Right.
Minus the technology. And I feel like it's not really about their ideals at that point. It's more of a survival thing. He who controls technology in a primitive land is the most powerful.
That would be their modus operandi, which is very interesting because when you find them in Fallout 3, their main antagonist is the Enclave, which I would argue is almost a mirror to them. They're a bunch of soldiers running around in power armor who are viciously trying to snatch up all the technology that they can get their hands on.
Right. And it's a question for me of, do they want the technology just because of the power it grants and that element of it? Or do they truly believe that humanity has utilized this technology through the Great War and this, nuclear devastation to an ill degree, so they're not worthy of wielding this technology? Like, are they so caught up in their mantra that they truly believe that only the Brotherhood can control that technology, that humans and general people of the greater wasteland shouldn't have access to that?
Which I always still feel like is kind of ironic, seeing as I do still kind of indirectly blame the Brotherhood of Steel for super mutants.
Yeah, I could see why you would do that.
So how is that? How does that work?
I feel like they didn't. I don't know. I feel like they could have done more to stop the forced evolutionary virus in the situation that they were in.
Well, according to the newest way that Bethesda has explained everything, there was no way they could stop it because, like we said earlier, there's just forced evolutionary virus apparently everywhere in the United States, which is really, some people call that bad retcons. I call it I
call it the American government being the Oprah of bad experiments.
Yes.
I will accept
you get a virus and you get a virus.
Everybody gets a virus plus nuclear radiation at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the origin of the super mutants, is that the forced evolutionary virus combined with the radiation to give us what we lovingly refer to as super mutants. And in Fallout 3, the one of the main missions of the Brotherhood of Steel, which is the East Coast Brotherhood, is to attack the super mutants and to wipe the super mutants out to protect the people of the wasteland. Which that was a different mission than we see the Brotherhood of Steel in previous games and in Fallout 4. In Fallout 4, we see a return to their more of Brotherhood versus everybody kind of attitude.
So it seems like in 3, they put being helpful above technology in their values list. They were like, okay, new rankings this time around. We're going with a brand new ranking, and this is where that will stand. We've still got the Brotherhood. We've still got tradition, except this time around, we're going to be more helpful.
It's like, we can't totally ignore you guys, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Hey, it's Abu. I'm a producer and host here at Lore Party. This is the time I'd normally take to talk about sponsors, so maybe I'd tell you about that particular mattress company, or I'd let you know about this delivery service that brings easy-to-cook meals right to your doorstep. But since we don't have any sponsors, I figured I would just take this time to tell you about the series that I produce here on the show. My co-host Brett and I produce episodes about The Witcher. We deep dive into the lore and the stories and the characters of both the games and the books. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, be sure to check out the Lore Party feed and look for the Witcher episodes. Okay, enough of me interrupting this episode, back to what you were actually here to listen to.
What is your first impression when you encountered them in Fallout 4, Lawerence? Like, as someone who isn't as familiar with previous iterations, what did you think of them when you first encountered them?
I thought that they were a group of people who were prepared to do anything to survive. And like I mentioned before in previous episodes we've done on Fallout, they were way different from the what are they? The Minutemen?
Yes.
Yeah, way different. Oh my God. Where they're peace and justice. You have these guys that are no, we're in a fucking wasteland. We need to do what we need to do to survive. So they should be hostile around strangers. They should be strong and unwavering in their kind of conviction to survival and gathering technology and making the Brotherhood of Steel as strong as it can so they can accomplish their goals.
Now, Dave, as someone who's played Fallout 3, what was your first reaction? Were you expecting friendly Brotherhood Elder Lions, or were you shocked when it switched up?
Well, my first impression was, how do I get the power armor now that I found them? That was the key thing. I was excited because after playing 3 and in New Vegas, it's like, okay, so now we're kind of getting this, these factions that are integral to the series. And I was pretty happy about them and what they were doing. And you do a bunch of missions for their recon team, but then you start playing out this character storyline with Paladin Dance, and it turns out that they are a lot more discriminatory in this iteration than they were in 3, which I wasn't used to, but a lot of people that had played previous series were familiar with. But that came out in full force, even to their own members that they had within their group. And I didn't like that one bit, because you know what? Their top value is Brotherhood, and they did not follow that. And when you're in the Brotherhood, you ad Victoriam, ride or die.
But what if you're a dirty synth?
See, that's the thing. Is what? That's the question that Westworld and Fallout 4 are trying to ask is, what constitutes conscience and what are humans? Although I will say that the synth production very similar in Fallout 4.
I was a little freaked out by that when I noticed that.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute.
But aren't the synths just a personification of man's inability to utilize technology for the greater good from the Brotherhood's perspective? If I was personally in the Brotherhood of Steel, like Fallout 4, I would probably be like, these are these like dirty synths. They kind of go against everything that that Brotherhood stands for.
Yeah, I would say that you have the Institute itself and the Brotherhood are very similar in the fact that they want to control technology, except the Institute wants to progress and build technology, while the Brotherhood just wants to have it and keep it locked away unless they use it.
I mean, I would say, that's the big thing is that they pretty much defeated the Enclave in 3, so then they had to look for a new opponent, and it basically just seems like they just look for anyone who has technology that isn't them. They just seem to want to always attack people who aren't them.
Well, I mean, the Institute was also doing some pretty depraved shit.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean, it's kind of cool. Fallout 4 does a great way of if you side with the Brotherhood, you end up doing some pretty foul things for them. I mean, the thing I can think that first comes to mind for me is when you join up with the Brotherhood and they're like, hey, we need you to go to these farmers and appropriate some of their crops. And you're like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, just bully the crap out of them and steal them, essentially. Force them to give you our crops. And I'm like, well, that doesn't seem like a very noble thing to do.
Yeah, that's my question is when you put it in absolutes, like, would you define the Brotherhood as settlers or raiders?
I'd say that they are in a sweet gray area in between. They are that I like to call survivalists.
So you would argue that they're adapting to their world,
right? They've gone past the. I mean, I guess they're in a bad area in terms of they're not trying to be better than their surroundings, which I think that as a Brotherhood, having their values, that should be something that they strive to do is be better than their surroundings because they think that they are better, I guess. At least that's the way it comes off.
For me, it seems like that they are like the white collar raiders.
That is a great.
Where they want particular things, just like raiders do. Raiders will come in and they'll take everything. The Brotherhood just wants these specific things. Now, most people don't have an amass of technology, but if you do, they're going to come and take it from you. And they may ask nicely at first, but if you don't say, yeah, sure, they're going to come and get it no matter what.
With power
So
armor.
for me, there's no settlement building. It is literally the same mindset as the Raiders, where it's like, we've got to go collect our wealth by any means necessary and bring it back. The only thing about the Brotherhood is they look fancy and they talk better.
That is an excellent point.
I like that. I like that idea. What sets you apart, Paladin? I talk good and I look pretty. Fair enough. Here's my
me,
coins.
Buzz Lightyear. Me talk good.
Oh my God, they are just Buzz Lightyear. That's so true.
Oh no, I don't want to have that image in my head now.
Well, some people have pointed out that Paladin Dance sounds oddly like George Clooney or Buzz Lightyear, and I'm like, I can see the amalgamation of the two. I really can.
I think he has that like Boy Scoutish personality and like military optimism that Buzz Lightyear does, and it's kind of funny to relate Buzz Lightyear to military optimism.
Yeah.
Very similar personality structure.
Absolutely.
Hey, it's Abu, executive producer of Lore Party. Before I close out this episode, I wanted to let you know that there was this entire 20-minute discussion that got cut from this episode where Dave laid out this incredible theory about why he thinks the Brotherhood is definitely going to be in Fallout 76. We'll release that as a standalone separate bonus episode, so be sure to check that out on the Lore Party feed. But as always, if you enjoyed this episode, maybe take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us grow the show. You can also connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at lore_party. We also have a subreddit at r/loreparty where you can join in on our discussions. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.